Part 62. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 611. When she, sing. Everyone seconded the proposal. The KTV was on the 4th floor of the shopping mall. They were on the 3rd floor now and were about to go to the escalator when Gu Xiao saw two familiar figures in the atrium on the 1st floor. It was Fu Nanli and Wen Qiao. He held her hand, and she turned to look at him with a smile from time to time. From the perspective of the onlookers, he could clearly see the aura of indifference and the undercurrent of affection between the two. Clearly. A piece of his heart seemed to have collapsed. He couldn't describe what it felt like. He only felt a severe pain in his heart. His eyes darkened. When she hooked his arm around his neck, let's go. There are a lot of people singing at KTV this weekend. We might have to queue up. We have to hurry up. Gu Xiao forced a smile and went to the 4th floor with them. The private screening room of Master Fu's mid-level villa in Jianshui Lake is about the same size as the small hall of an ordinary cinema. Just because of his little girlfriend's words, he followed Wen Qiao to stand in front of the self-service ticket machine and watched Wen Qiao deftly take out the tickets, then go to the counter to buy popcorn and drinks. Finally entered the screening room. This was also his first time to watch a movie in a public cinema. They were sitting in a couple's seat, and the lights were still bright. Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows and looked at her. This is my first time watching a movie outside. Wen Qiao, Master, your life experience is too little. Her heart beat slightly as she went out to watch a movie with her. He seemed to be in a good mood. Thinking of what she was going to say to him later and the image of his father's image collapsing in his heart, she felt distressed. Fu Nanli pinched her face. After the lights dimmed, the whispers gradually faded away. When Master Fu saw other lovers and girlfriends leaning on their boyfriends' arms, he put his arm around Wen Qiao's shoulders and tried to pull him into his arms. Wen Qiao grabbed the armrest and looked at him with a question mark. What to do? Her whole body was tense and ready for battle. Fu Nanli's slightest movement could make her feel like she was facing a formidable enemy. Fu Nanli narrowed his eyes. Look at others. When Wen Qiao took a look, in the dim light, the boys and girls in front of him were not sitting properly, they were all huddled together. Tilting your head makes me uncomfortable. Young Master Fu pulled you into his arms, not caring whether you were comfortable or not. Wen Qiao could only let him go, and began to rehearse the lines he would say to him later. Maybe your father had some unavoidable reasons that made him confused for a while. So a mistake was made. Is this appropriate? Can the harm to him be minimized? My mind was in turmoil, I was not in the mood to watch a movie, and my palms were a little cold. I just hope he won't be too sad. It's impossible not to be sad, right? The image of a great father has collapsed in his heart, and even the strongest person will be sad. Fu Nanli's phone vibrated. He took it out and saw a line of words on the screen. Your father had an affair back then, did you know? Boom, there was a car accident in the movie. The three-dimensional surround sound made Fu Nanli suddenly come back to his senses. Wen Qiao came over and said, Master, don't look at your phone while watching the movie. Fu Nanli immediately clasped the phone, his heart already in a state of confusion, and a sinister look in his eyes. The number that sent him the message was obviously a series of network IPs, but what the other party said was simple and clear. Your father had an affair back then, did you know? Such a sentence was like a snowball growing bigger and bigger in his mind, and finally exploded. Fu Nanli let go of Wen Qiao. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 612. The phone vibrated again. It was a photo. It was a photo of Gu Xiao in high school. The photo was enlarged and you could clearly see that Gu Xiao looked very similar to him. The caption is Gu Xiao, is your father's illegitimate son outside? The sender is his bodyguard Qin Bei. Yes, after Wen Qiao, he asked Qin Bei to investigate Gu Xiao. He always felt that it was not a good thing for Gu Xiao to be around Wen Qiao. But I didn't expect such a piece of news, which came unexpectedly, made his mind go into chaos and his breath froze. The noisy three-dimensional surround sound in the cinema seemed to have become an illusion. There was a buzzing in his ears. He loosened his hands, then loosened them again. There is no way to think about those two lines. Wen Qiao keenly noticed that something was wrong with the mood of the person around him, turned to look at him, and whispered, "My hands are numb." Fu Nanli forced a smile and said, "Watch a movie." Wen Qiao's eyes were focused on the big screen, but Fu Nanli's mind was in chaos. Father cheating? His first reaction was disbelief. My father is a gentle man with a good temper and a good relationship with my mother. At least when they are in front of him, the two of them seem to be very affectionate. He never believed that a father like that would cheat on him. But Gu Xiao's face that looked exactly like his was the most powerful evidence that his father had cheated on him. Otherwise, how could there be two people who looked so similar in the world? The movie was shown for 1.5 hours. When the movie ended, the lights in the hall turned on. Wen Qiao stood up and stretched. He turned around and saw Fu Nanli sitting there with a pale face and a strange expression. She stretched out her hand on him. His eyes were shaking. "It's over, let's go." Only then did Fu Nanli stand up, and Wen Qiao took his arm and walked along the crowd towards the emergency exit. "Is it too stuffy in here and you're not used to it?" Fu Nanli reluctantly twitched the corner of his mouth and responded softly, "Well, it's a bit boring." Wen Qiao entered the elevator with him. The car stopped at B2. The elevator was a little crowded. Seeing that he still looked bad, Wen Qiao's words got stuck in his throat. It wasn't until the car left the shopping mall for a while that there was a gap left. The autumn evening breeze poured into the car, and the neon light slowly receded outside the car window. Wen Qiao saw Fu Nanli's face turned ashen and felt something was wrong. "What's wrong with you?" The person next to him suddenly focused his eyes and smiled, "It's okay." Wen Qiao frowned, "Is it really okay?" Fu Nanli shook her hand and said, "I just have a headache." Wen Qiao thought that some people with migraines are prone to getting sick if they stay in a closed place for a long time, so he apologized, "I shouldn't have taken you to watch a movie." "Fine." When he arrived at Fu Nanli's apartment, Wen Qiao made him a glass of lemonade and took out the medicine box. "Do you have a severe headache? Do you want to take a painkiller?" She saw Fu Nanli standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window holding a glass of water. For some reason, she felt an indescribable sense of loneliness and desolation behind his back. She walked over with painkillers. "Do you want to take medicine?" Fu Nanli did suffer from a migraine, and there was no cure for the disease. His temples throbbed with pain, which was so heartbreaking that it made him feel a little depressed. Wen Qiao peeled off a capsule and put it into his palm. Fu Nanli took the medicine and continued to stand there. Wen Qiao sat on the armrest of the sofa and shook his legs slightly. He was extremely depressed. In that case, could she still say it? Should I take it slow? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 613. Fu Nanli even forgot that there was someone sitting on the sofa behind him, took out a cigarette, lit it, and smoked with a frown. After such a long time, his thoughts were still confused. Time has passed, 20 years have passed. At that time, he was still young, 9 years old. Then he became seriously ill again. As if he was deliberately trying to forget those pains, his memories before the age of 9 were blurred, and all he could remember was what remains is the scene of parents' love. Now that that piece of news suddenly hit me, the long-standing memory gradually became vivid and clear. Do parents really love each other? At what age do people have memories? Some people are early, some are later. Fu Nanli has a high IQ. He can even vaguely remember things from when he was about 3 years old. The words my mother said suddenly surged up from the depths of my memory. If you don't love me, why did you marry me? His face turned pale, and he stretched out his hand to press his temples. The painkillers didn't seem to be working, and he had a splitting headache. Once the gate of memory is broken, the past will pour out. It seems that parents often quarrel. When he was 8 years old, his father seemed to want to participate in a concert tour and went abroad. He did not come home for a long time. It seems that I haven't been home for nearly a year. When I was a kid, I was convinced about touring, but now that I think about it, what kind of tour takes a year? A world tour will end in 2 months at most. After his father went abroad, his mother, who had always been cheerful, optimistic, and capable, seemed to have cried behind his back. It was summer, and the vegetation outside the window was lush. He came back from school, and the driver followed him carrying his school bag. He saw his mother standing in front of the French window, and it was raining outside. He shouted. The mother turned around, with no time to wipe away the tears from the corners of her eyes. He asked her what was wrong, and she said she was just listening to a sad song. There is an old-fashioned gramophone beside me, and the music inside is Tchaikovsky's Pathetic Symphony played by my father. Before his father went abroad, a fierce quarrel seemed to have broken out between his parents. Fu Nanli felt his palms were a little cold, and when the cigarette butt burned out, he lit another one. The inexplicable text message was like a red iron, burning his internal organs and causing pain. Seeing that he had smoked 3 cigarettes in a row, Wen Qiao couldn't sit still. He walked to him and pulled his hand. Why do you keep smoking? Fu Nanli quickly put out the cigarette butt in the ashtray nearby and asked in a hoarse voice, why are you still here? Wen Qiao put her hands on his waist, and Fu Nanli held her waist with one hand, and quickly waved the smoke in the air with the other hand. Aren't you leaving? Wen Qiao shook his head. I'm not leaving. Are you worried about something? Or is there something going on at home? Can you tell me? Although I'm not good at comforting others, I might be able to help you share some of your worries. Fu Nanli forced a smile. It's the company's business. It's a bit of a hassle to open up the European market. Even if you tell me, you don't quite understand. Even if Wen Qiao realized it later, he could still tell that he had not told the truth. With his ability, how could he be so worried about work matters? Then take a shower first and then take a nap. There's nothing that a good nap can't solve. She pulled him to the bedroom. His movements were a bit mechanical, so Wen Qiao helped him get his nightgown and pushed him into the bathroom. The strong water from the shower rushed down, and Fu Nanli suddenly came back to his senses, recalling the daily life of his parents in those few years. The gate of memory suddenly collapsed. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 614. His parents' love seemed to be just an illusion he had constructed for himself. His parents seemed to be just showing affection in front of him. Dust-covered memories are like Pandora's box. Once opened, they can no longer be contained. When he came out of the bathroom and met Wen Qiao's worried eyes, his voice became hoarse. Sleep here with me, okay? Wen Qiao nodded. After taking a shower, he saw him smoking on the balcony of the bedroom. When he heard a noise, he opened the door to the floor-to-ceiling window and entered the bedroom. Wen Qiao came forward to hug him and comfort him. No matter what happens, you have to know, there are people behind you supporting you. Although she was not very powerful, she tried her best to protect him. Fu Nanli finally showed some smile and stroked her face lovingly. Shouldn't this be what a man says to a woman? Wen Qiao tilted his head and looked at him with a smile. Who stipulates that only men can protect women? Men can also be vulnerable. Fu Nanli bent down and kissed the top of her head, hugged her tightly, and went to bed with her in his arms. The lights went out, and there was darkness in the bedroom with only one curtain drawn. Wen Qiao leaned in his arms, listening to his heartbeat and feeling his breathing. I couldn't say what I wanted to tell him, and I couldn't sleep all night. Late at night, Fu Nanli reached for the mobile phone on the bedside table and flipped through his mother's WeChat account, feeling a little confused. He was wavering for a moment whether he should trust his father and ignore the text message, or ask his mother for clarification. After a while, he put down his cell phone. If he had anything to do, he might as well ask his mother face to face. In Gu Xiao's room on Jingnan Road, he was sitting in front of his desk. On the computer screen was the video chat page. Teresa stared at him and raised her eyebrows. Dear young master, you want to video chat with me, but you haven't said a word for 5 minutes, it's getting late. If you have nothing to say, just hang up. I told him today about his father's affair. Finally, he spoke. Teresa paused and spoke with difficulty. Are you going to show off your cards? This doesn't seem to be your original plan. Didn't you say you were going to stand still and wait for your brother to die and become the sole heir of the Fu family? Why can't you hold yourself back suddenly? Gu Xiao was a little upset. I just couldn't hold it back suddenly. Seeing him easily possessing things that I couldn't even try my best to achieve, I felt very uncomfortable. What happened? Teresa asked coaxingly. Gu Xiao then told what happened that night. Teresa played with the lighter in her hand. Have you fallen in love with that beautiful little girl? Gu Xiao lowered his eyes and said nothing, with a calm face. Or are you just seeing your brother too happy and you just want to cause damage? Gu Xiao's eyes trembled. You are special to that girl just because she is your brother's girlfriend. Maybe you just want to rob your brother of his belongings. You just don't want to make your brother happy. In the final analysis, everything you do is because of you. Hate your brother, don't you? Teresa said. Gu Xiao finally raised his eyes to look at the person on the screen, a handsome young man with a blank look in his eyes. I don't know. He said, I don't know, Teresa, I really don't. Teresa sighed softly. Your brother knows that his father cheated on him back then. He should be in pain now. Knowing that he is in so much pain, you should be happy now. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 615. There may be love, but also revenge. Emotional matters are the most complicated, and even the parties involved cannot explain clearly. Gu Xiao murmured to himself, yes, yes, I should feel happy, I should feel happy. Then he showed an expression of realization. Teresa, you are right, he is in pain now, I should be happy, I am quite happy. Teresa was a little helpless. Although you are not Sir's biological brother, Sir always hopes that you will be happy. If revenge can make you happy, then we can continue to help you get revenge. Gu Xiao smiled and said to her, I'm very happy. Teresa, that's good, a showdown doesn't matter. After turning off the video, Gu Xiao raised his head and let out a long sigh. He told himself over and over again that he was very happy. Seeing Fu Nanli in pain made him happy. In the morning, Fu Nanli knew when Wen Qiao got up because he hadn't slept all night, but she moved very gently and didn't want to disturb him, so he pretended to be asleep. Wen Qiao went to the kitchen downstairs, put 2 slices of bread into the toaster, started frying eggs and bacon, washed some fruits, warmed up 2 glasses of milk, put them on the dining table, then quietly returned to the bedroom. He whispered in the man's ear, Brother Nanli, get up and have breakfast. Fu Nanli slowly opened his eyes, with a sleepy look on his face. stretched out his hand to pull the person into his arms, and said with a forced smile, "Did you make breakfast?" "Well, it's just toast and fried eggs. You just don't mind." After breakfast, Fu Nanli left the apartment. Looking at his lonely back, Wen Qiao's heart suddenly collapsed. Did Gu Xiao tell him this before she did? She sent a text message to Gu Xiao all day long. Did you tell Fu Nanli about his father? After a long wait, when Wen Qiao was impatient and came to look for him, a text message came back from there. Yes. Wen Qiao's eyes trembled. Thinking of Fu Nanli's reactions last night, he felt heartbroken and immediately got up and went to the Fu family's company. After breakfast, Fu Nanli returned to Qinshuahua mansion first. Uncle Li came up to him and asked, "Where is my mother?" "Madam is upstairs, and your aunt is also there. The two of them are probably chatting, young master." Fu Nanli had already gone upstairs along the stairs. Uncle Li was a little surprised. In the past, when his wife was talking to her sister, the young master never bothered her. There are 3 gyms on the 2nd floor. Yamingkaiu and Yaminchun were chatting in the yoga room. In addition to the fitness equipment in the yoga room, there was a small round table next to the door. Yamingkaiu took a sip from the coffee cup. Yaminchun asked, "Do you want to go find Gu Yunzu?" Fu Nanli paused outside the door. Yamingkaiu chuckled, "What should I do with her? If you let her leave Hiken, how can she have the nerve to come back? What does she want to do when she comes back? Does she still feel that the Fu family is sorry for her after destroying other people's families?" Yamingkaiu chuckled, "Do you think she will listen to me? If I ask her to leave, will she really leave? I also asked her to leave Xianyuan back then, and she never listened to me." Yaminchun patted the table, "What a shameless woman. I'm just afraid that she will always stay in Hiken. If Nan Li finds out." "Gu Yunzu, Gu Xiao. It turns out everything is true." "Master." The servant's voice sounded outside the door. Yamingkaiu's face instantly turned pale, and he immediately ran to the door and opened it. Fu Nanli pretended to pause in his steps, with a relaxed look on his face. "I just came up, what were you talking about?" "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 616. Yamingkaiu's heart was stuck in her throat, and her expression was a little uncomfortable. "It's nothing. What can your aunt and I talk about? It's about women. She said she was going to travel and asked me to accompany her. I said I didn't have time." Yaminchun also came out in a hurry. "Nan Li, you have to share the burden for your mother. For so many years, you have been working hard as a model worker. You are so focused on Zhonghuan that you have no time to play." Fu Nanli smiled, "I have taken over a lot of things, she should be able to relax now." Yamingkaiu patted her son's shoulder and said to Yurong, "Our Nanli has done a good job and is stronger than me. I guess it won't be long before I can be the shopkeeper. Oh, by the way, you came here to find someone ours. I have something to ask your opinion on." "What? Which project is better, a water park or a theme park, to develop Nanban Island?" Yamingkaiu chuckled, "You can't make the decision on such a small matter." Fu Nanli shrugged, pretending to be relaxed. "After all, you are the president. If I, the vice president, have any big moves, I still need to ask for your opinion. I think it's mainly a theme park, with a water park in the middle, so it's more comprehensive. What do you think?" "Well, I think it's okay. I'll have a meeting at the company later. Will you go?" Yamingkaiu waved her hand. "I just came back from a business trip. Your mother is not young anymore. Can you let me rest for a day?" Fu Nanli smiled and said, "Then I will go to the company." Turning around, he walked along the carpeted corridor to the stairs. Touching the smooth escalator, the smile on his face condensed inch by inch. The mother didn't want her to know about her father's cheating. Perhaps she also wanted to try her best to maintain the image of her husband who was not sincere in the eyes of her son. Then he just pretends to know nothing. However, there were mixed feelings inside, and he didn't know how to describe his mood at the moment. It is true that his father was unfaithful and he did have another woman. That woman was named Gu Yunzu. In his last year, he went abroad, not to attend any concerts, but because he and his mother were gone and he went to find the woman named Gu Yunzu. On the second floor, Ye Mingkai watched Fu Nanli walk out of the mansion and looked at his sister with a worried look on his face. Do you think he heard us? I think should not be. Ye Minchun is not sure either. In order not to worry his mother, Fu Nanli still went to Zhonghuan, but the executives and secretaries and assistants who were close to him could sense that the young master was not in a good mood. Not only was it not good, the prince's cold, ruthless aura that kept strangers away made the executives in the meeting walk on thin ice and tremble with fear. As for the theme park, the investment cost is expected to be 6 times that of the water park, although the subsequent profits will. Pa, the eldest young master threw away the pen in his hand. Why did Mr. Zhang suddenly stutter? Can you report it? If you can't report it, let someone else do it. Mr. Zhang is just afraid. The eldest young master has taken a hit today. If any data does not satisfy him, the eldest young master will get angry on the spot. He is too difficult. After being challenged by the young master, Mr. Zhang suddenly spoke fluently and quickly reported the investment costs and subsequent profit-related data between the water park and the theme park. Fu Nanli leaned on the boss's chair and put his 2 fingers together on his temples. Is this your plan? The air pressure is extremely low. 40-year-old Mr. Zhang was almost frightened to tears. Congratulations on joining Tang Tang. It's an extra bonus for the monthly pass and Tang Tang. In addition, I think our little Akiao has done a good job in all aspects, whether it is family, friendship, or love. I hope my readers will be more tolerant and loving to my little Akiao. My old father would like to express my heart to you. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 617. As soon as the eldest young master made a sarcastic comment, he couldn't help but stand up, like a primary school student being scolded. Seeing that Fu Nanli was angry again, why are you standing up? Am I so terrible? Mr. Zhang really wanted to cry. I feel comfortable standing here. If Mr. Fu has any dissatisfaction, please point it out. I will revise the plan when I get back. Fu Nanli held the pen, wrote and drew on the paper, and said coldly, theme positioning, theme cultural connotation, unique theme creativity, cost and profit leverage economy. Mr. Zhang was stunned, thinking that the young master had eaten dynamite today and did not pay attention to the content of their report. However, he did not expect that the young master could almost repeat the content of his just report word for word, and pick out the data and theories that were indeed unreasonable. Operations that can be performed online but cannot be performed in real life. At the end of the review, Mr. Zhang almost applauded the prince. Some people are born entrepreneurs. I heard that they studied astrophysics and mathematics in college and joined an airline company after graduation. But when they joined such a large company, they were able to do whatever they wanted, whether it was work or personnel management. A genius, that's all. Yes, I have written down everything you said. I will revise it when I get back. Fu Nanli frowned and threw away the pen. When giving a report, please be smart. Okay, everyone. Everyone said there was no problem. The eldest young master pressed his temple. Let's adjourn the meeting. All the executives were silent and filed out. After exiting, they all breathed a sigh of relief. A few familiar people gathered together and discussed in low voices. The young master is in a bad mood today. Yeah, it's so scary, I can't even breathe. It's really strange, he was in a good mood 2 days ago after he brought his little girlfriend here. I saw that the corners of his eyes and eyebrows were tender. Could it be that I had a conflict with my girlfriend? Stop talking nonsense and get back to work. Secretary Fiona and Chief Special Assistant Ding Quan followed Fu Nanli to the office. Outside the Vice President's office, Fiona whispered to her secretary Alice, "Make a cup of hot Americano for Mr. Fu." Alice had just come to the President's office because of her excellent work performance. She quickly went to the special tea room in the President's office, made a cup of hot American food, and carried it to the Vice President's office on a small tray. After Fu Nanli finished the meeting, the pent-up anger was still hovering above his head. When Alice approached the office with a coffee cup, Master Fu, who was on the phone, was sitting at the desk with his back to her, reaching for the documents on the table. Accidentally bumped into it. Miss Alice watched helplessly as the entire cup of coffee poured onto the back of the Crown Prince's hand with an unstoppable force. His face turned pale. The coffee is still hot. A whole cup of coffee was spilled on Fu Nanli's hand. He groaned and the coffee cup fell to the ground. The crisp cracking sound scared Fiona outside and immediately knocked on the door and came in. I saw Alice was so scared that she was stunned. Fiona quickly took the wet wipes and said in a tone of panic, "Mr. Fu, are you okay?" Fu Nanli's eyelids trembled in pain. "Is this the person you promoted?" Alice was holding the small silver tray and almost knelt down in front of the eldest young master. Fiona didn't excuse herself, she just said calmly, "I chose the person. I'm sorry. I asked Li Yuan to come over immediately and take a look at you." Fu Nanli threw away the wet tissue in his hand and frowned, "Get out. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 618. Cold sweat broke out on Fiona's forehead. "Okay, I understand. I will go outside to prepare ice cubes for you to apply on, and then call Dean Li over." After saying that, he took the completely frightened Alice and rushed out of the eldest young master's office. As soon as she left the office, Alice's legs were so weak that she almost knelt down. Fiona supported her. "What's wrong with you, you damn girl? As soon as I lifted you up, you got into trouble." Alice cried. Mr. Fu reached out and hit the coffee cup himself. "Tisk, that's because you didn't do your job well. Why are you so close to him? I won't say more. Let's go back to the personnel department later. Let's make personnel transfers when we have the opportunity in the future. Prepare ice cubes quickly. I'll call Li Yuan." Telephone. Alice didn't dare to cry and hurriedly went to the tea room to prepare ice cubes. Sister Fiona said that being with a king is like being with a tiger. This is absolutely true. If you endure such a lot of pressure in the long run, you will become bald. High pay, high risk. Li Fang hurried over with the medical kit and saw that the back of the eldest young master's right hand was red. It looked very distressing. He quickly took out the burnt plaster and applied it on him. "Have you been having a bad time recently? Why do you keep getting hurt?" Li Fang pretended to be joking. Fu Nanli had a gloomy handsome face and didn't speak. He didn't know what he was thinking. Li Fang added, "The people down there are so careless." Fu Nanli came to his senses. "How many days will it take for the redness and swelling to disappear?" 2 or 3 days, what? You don't want Xiao Wen to know. Fu Nanli said sarcastically, forget it, it's really not going well lately. Would you like to burn some incense?" Fu Nanli sneered, "Do you still believe this?" Li Fang shrugged, "I heard before that this is how you found your Qiao. Fu Nanli lit a cigarette. "It's just a fluke. Can I engage in feudal superstition whenever I encounter trouble?" Li Fang smiled, applied the medicine, and wrapped a thin layer of gauze around it. What happened? Fu Nanli raised his eyebrows slightly. It's nothing. Li Fang didn't ask further questions and just said, I'll give you this ointment. Apply it twice a day. Try not to get water on your burned hands in the past 2 days. Fortunately, the temperature of the coffee is not too high, the burn is not serious, and there is no foaming. Otherwise, it will be a big trouble. New. After Li Fang left, Fu Nanli called Wen Qiao and said that he was on a business trip and would be back in 2 or 3 days. Wen Qiao was standing at the front desk of Zhonghuan building at the moment, holding his cell phone in his hands, and politely asked the lady at the front desk, Is Mr. Fu upstairs? The front desk lady replied, Yes. Wen Qiao, then can I go up and find him? Receptionist, of course, I'll take you up. Last time, the eldest young master personally took the girl's hand into the building. Who didn't know that this was the young ancestor who had to provide for her? Wen Qiao entered the elevator while chatting with Fu Nanli. Did you go on a business trip? Where did you go on a business trip? Nanbin Island. Wen Qiao, ah, Nanbin Island, when did you set off? This afternoon. The elevator had reached the 58th floor, and Wen Qiao walked outside his office. The semi-open secretariat outside the vice president's office was gloomy and the air pressure was very low. Because the eldest young master was unhappy, they were all worried. When they saw Wen Qiao coming, they all smiled, except this sister. It can turn the eldest young master's mood from sunny to cloudy. She knocked on the door and then poked her head in. Mr. Fu is on a business trip. Fu Nanli picked up the phone and immediately put his burned hand behind his back. How did you come? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 619. Wen Qiao put away his cell phone, put his hands in his pockets, and snorted, Tell me, are you planning to do something sinister behind my back? You actually lied to me about going on a business trip. Just trying to lighten the mood. The office door was ajar, and the 2 secretaries outside felt inexplicably relieved when they heard Wen Qiao's voice. Fu Nanli sat on the boss's chair and did not get up. I did plan to fly to Nanbin Island at night. Wen Qiao was sitting at the table. Seeing that his posture was a little strange, with his hands behind his back, he immediately pulled his arm. He saw the gauze wrapped on it at a glance, and his heart twitched. What's going on? It's okay, I accidentally got burned by the coffee. Wen Qiao's eyes were filled with distress. Why are you so careless? It's okay, don't worry. You said something about your company bothered you, has it been resolved now? Fu Nanli lowered his eyes and said in a deep voice, It's not the company's matters that bother me. I've learned some past events in the past 2 days, and it's hard to resolve them for a while. Wen Qiao nodded, Oh, so that's it? Fu Nanli pinched her fingers and said, It's about my father. Wen Qiao saw his eyes struggling, and his whole body was filled with sadness. His voice was choked in his throat. If you don't want to say it, don't say it. He is a man who values face. His father cheated on him. For him to tell such a thing himself would probably be the death penalty for him. He clasped her hand tightly and whispered, My father seemed to have another woman back then. The room was quiet when he said it. Wen Qiao was stunned for a moment and didn't know what to say to comfort him. After a while, he said, So you know that you have a younger brother, right? Maybe I shouldn't call him your younger brother. Fu Nanli, so you know that Gu Xiao is my brother, right? Wen Qiao said truthfully, I accidentally heard Brother Dong say before that Gu Xiao looked a bit like you before plastic surgery. I thought it was a little strange. When you took me to New York, didn't I go to his school? Just these two. I got a photo of him from high school the other day. He really looks a lot like you. I asked you out to watch a movie yesterday. I originally planned to tell you about it, but someone else took the picture first. I'm sorry. Ah. She looked apologetic, and Fu Nanli felt heartbroken, and said in a low voice, I don't blame you, I don't blame you. Wen Qiao looked at him anxiously, are you okay? Fu Nanli even sounded a little sad, frankly speaking, it's not very good, Qiao I'm not very good. My thoughts are confused now, and I need to sort out my thoughts. Wen Qiao hugged him, I'm with you, I'll always be with you. His voice was deep, and his eyes were a little lonely. I just can't understand why my father did that. I always thought he loved my mother and me very much, but I was overthinking it. It turns out that I was overthinking it all along. Wen Qiao felt that his vocabulary was so poor. No, don't think so, your father must love you. Fu Nanli rubbed her head and smiled. The smile made Wen Qiao feel sad. He's not happy, he's unhappy. Gu Xiao's goal was achieved. I shouldn't have recruited him into my club from the beginning. She looked at him with red eyes. I really didn't know he was your brother at the beginning. I didn't know he approached me with purpose. If I had known earlier, I would definitely. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 620. Silly girl, this is not your fault. Things have already happened. He already exists in this world. No matter what, he will come back to take revenge on the Fu family. It has nothing to do with you. Even if you don't recruit him, he will still appear in this world. Somewhere else. Wen Qiao remembered what he said again, I want to have a younger brother or younger sister, and pamper them well, and felt so distressed that I could hardly breathe. Why is Gu Xiao so obsessed with taking revenge on Fu Nanli? What did her Nanli do wrong? Wen Qiao stayed at Fu Nanli's apartment that night, and Fu Nanli quickly calmed down his emotions. The sadder he became, the more the little girl blamed herself, and he couldn't show it. The next day, the two of them had breakfast, sitting opposite each other, looking at each other in silence. Wen Qiao hesitated and wanted to speak to comfort him. Seeing that the man opposite him seemed to be fine, he didn't know what to say for a moment, so he simply shut up. The doorbell rang and it was Qin Bei. His young master asked him to carefully investigate what happened between Gu Yunzu and his father. Seeing Wen Qiao at the dining table, Qin Bei, who was holding a stack of documents, said evasively, I'll wait until you finish eating. The truth made him a little bit overwhelmed. It was related to the dark history of the Fu family. After all, Wen Qiao was still an outsider and seemed unsuitable to be present. Fu Nanli said, just tell me. There is nothing Wen Qiao cannot know. Qin Bei. This matter is disgraceful. Didn't the young master really ask Xiao Wen to avoid it? Fu Nanli glanced at him, why don't you say anything? Qin Bei put a stack of information in Fu Nanli's hand. Gu Yunzu is 46 years old this year. 23 years ago, he was your father's assistant and was responsible for handling your father's concert matters. Wen Qiao ate in silence, then looked up at Fu Nanli, I forgot to put on moisturizer. I'll put it on. Then he ran upstairs quickly. Although he could reveal his most embarrassing past in front of her without reservation, she didn't want to sit in front of him and listen to his father's stories with him. She still wanted to preserve his face. After she left, Fu Nanli secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Bei continued, they have many opportunities to get along. Sometimes after the concert, they will go to the pub to have a drink together. The veins in Fu Nanli's hand holding the cup were exposed, and a solemn air enveloped his whole body. Your father and your mother are married in politics and business. You should know about this, right? Fu Nanli lowered his eyes, I don't know, I only know that my mother chased my father first, and then we got together. Your father did not agree with this marriage back then. He advocated freedom and did not like being arranged by the family. He said that it would ruin his life. It was as if a nail had been driven into his temple, and the pain was so painful that he couldn't breathe for a while. Chinbei slowed down before speaking. After that, your grandfather was too forceful and made your parents get married. Your father seemed unhappy all the time. Guyunzu is like a Jiyahua. Your father is willing to talk to her about his unhappiness. Fu Nanli's face was ashen, and Chinbei could even see the dark clouds looming over him. The air pressure was so low that he didn't even dare to speak anymore. Go on. Chinbei breathed out. Then, one day 1 year before your father went abroad, your mother seemed to have received a call, went to Guyunzu's apartment, and found that your father and Guyunzu were indeed having an affair. With a snap, Fu Nanli threw down the knife and fork in his hand. Chinbei was shocked to see his expression was sinister, and there was uncontrollable anger and sadness in his eyes.